Good morning, everyone. I'm going to take a moment and read to you my wellness presentation disclaimer. The information provided in this presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease and is not substitute for professional medical advice. I am not a medical doctor. All recommendations discussed, including exercise, nutrition, and supplementation, should be reviewed with your physician or qualified healthcare provider, especially if you have a medical condition, are taking medications, or under the care of a health professional. As always, consult your medical provider before making any changes to your health routine. All right. We got through that part. My clicker's working. You gotta turn it the right way. No, it's not working. There it goes. Is he here anywhere? No? Rodney, you wanna help me? I know. The light's on. Probably did. Well, that's not gonna help. I don't need the pointer. I need to change. No, it's not changing. I wanted to change slides. Stand by, technical difficulties. Okay, what did you do? Now you went too far. Well, whatever he did, he touched it and it's working. So let's go back. All right. Real food for healthy aging, understanding ultra-processed foods and the modern pyramid. Welcome to the ARC Wellness Presentation Series. If you've sat through some of these before, you kind of know my intention is to educate you and empower you and give you the education that you need to make healthier choices for yourself. I want to start by saying that the food choices we make every day are one of the most powerful tools we have to influence how we feel, how we function, and how we age. And the good news is we don't need to overhaul everything overnight. Even small informed choices can make a big difference. What we'll cover today. First, we'll go over ultra-processed foods, what they are, why they're everywhere, and how they can impact things like inflammation, chronic disease, and overall health. Then we'll talk honestly about what that means for us as consumers, because understanding the food environment can help you to make more informed choices. Then we'll take a step back and look at the past food environment versus the current food environment. How dramatically it's changed over the past 20 to 30 years. The food system today is very different than what most of us grew up with. And then we'll spend some time discussing who actually shapes our food system. Organizations including the USDA, HHS, and the FDA, and what their roles are in creating dietary guidelines, regulating food, and influencing what ends up on our plates. From there, we'll explore tools created by these agencies, the old food pyramid, my plate, and then the modern food pyramid. And finally, we'll dive into why nutrition becomes more important as we age. Finally, we'll wrap things together with simple, realistic tools and strategies, food swaps that you can start using right away. Nothing complicated, just practical changes that support healthy aging. Lastly, I told you guys you got to stay to the end. I have a surprise announcement and an opportunity for everyone to participate that you won't want to miss. The hook. The hook has been set. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about a term you may be hearing more often, ultra-processed foods. It isn't just a buzzword, it actually comes from a scientific system called the NOVA classification. Which groups of food are based on how processed they are. At one end, you have whole or minimally processed foods, fresh vegetables, fruits, meats, eggs. These foods look very similar to how they exist in nature. On the other end of the spectrum are the ultra-processed foods. Scientifically speaking, ultra-processed foods are defined as industrial formulations made mostly or entirely from extracted substances from real food. Combined with additives and designed to be convenient, highly palatable, and long-lasting. In similar terms, these are foods that are manufactured in factories, not prepared in kitchens. Industrial food products, mostly made from refined ingredients and additives, things you will all recognize. Sodas, packaged snacks, sugary cereals, fast food, frozen meals, processed meats. These things look very different than single ingredient foods. They're often designed to be very easy to eat and very hard to stop eating. They tend to be higher in sugar, refined carbohydrates, and unhealthy fats. And likewise, they're low in nutrients, low in fiber, low in protein. That combination can impact things like blood sugar, inflammation, weight gain, and overall health. Let's look at a simple example. On the left, or the right, is that your left? This happens in class all the time. Over there, we have a fresh apple. It's high in fiber, it has no additives, and it's minimally processed. In the middle, we have applesauce. It's been a little processed, maybe peeled, cooked, blanched. Most often sugar is added, but it's still recognizable as food. However, we've lost some of the fiber in the food structure, the food matrix. On the right, we have something that looks like food, snack bar, apple fruit, and now we're looking at a product that's been heavily processed. It may contain apple concentrate, definitely added sugars, flavorings, and preservatives. At this point, it's something very different than the original apple. So even though all three started with an apple, they have very different effects on the body. The more processed a food becomes, the further it moves away from its original structure and value. So it's helpful to take a step back and look at our food environment, because for most of us, if we go back 20 or 30 years, the food environment looks very different. Most food was prepared from whole ingredients, cooked in a kitchen. Meals were much more centered around whole, recognizable ingredients. So to really understand where we are now, we have to look back and see how quickly things have changed. The current food environment. I just want to flick back one more time. What is that? I got a meat, a chicken, a fish, I don't know, a lettuce, and maybe that's a potato, right? Cabbage. What is this? Oh boy. So think back. What did a typical meal look like in your home 20, 30, 40 years ago? Did it look more like this, or a combination of this or that? Because most meals were made with basic ingredients like vegetables, meat, eggs, beans, and rice, cooking at home was much more common. While today, processed foods are dominant. In fact, research looking at the American diet has found that about 60% of American calories consumed now come from ultra-processed foods. That's over half. And that's probably an underestimation. This was from Montero in 2016. So more than half of what people are eating each day is coming from foods that are manufactured rather than prepared. And it's not just what's available, it's also how these foods are designed. I heard someone in the audience say, "Oh, it tastes so good." Well, that's by design. Many of these products are engineered to be highly palatable, meaning they're very easy to eat and very hard to stop eating. They're often high in sugar, refined carbohydrates, industrial oils, your seed oils, while being lower in fiber and nutrients. Public health researchers often describe the current food environment as an obesogenic environment. Yeah, that's an ugly word, right? Obesogenic environment, which basically means the food environment of today is where the easiest, most convenient foods are not healthy. So if making healthy choices today feels harder than it used to, it's not just you. And understanding that is really important because it helps shift your mindset from what am I doing wrong to what kind of environment am I navigating. And once we understand that, we can make more intentional, informed choices within that environment. Make no mistake, the food environment has not gotten this way on accident. And I want to talk briefly about how the food industry has evolved over time, because it's played a major role in shaping the food environment we live in. Many people don't realize that several large food companies we're familiar with today, Kraft Foods, General Mills, were owned or influenced by tobacco companies like Philip Morris in the late 20th century. Why does that matter? Because tobacco companies had already spent decades investing in research on consumer behavior, reward pathways, habit forming, essentially what makes the product appealing and difficult to stop using, i.e. cigarettes. Some research has suggested that this knowledge influenced how certain ultra-processed foods were developed and marketed, particularly foods in combinations of high sugar, high fat, and high salt that are rewarding to the brain. There's even a term that these researchers use called the bliss point. What? The bliss point. I'm in bliss. Refers to the precise combination of ingredients that makes a food especially appealing and encourages continued consumption. Studies have found that foods developed under these large corporate structures are more likely to be engineered for palatability, convenience, and repeat consumption than nutritional value. That's from Moss, 2013. And it doesn't mean that all packaged foods are harmful, but it does explain why some foods can feel very easy to overeat and very hard to stop eating. It's not just about willpower, it's about understanding that many foods are designed to be highly appealing. And being mindful of that helps us to make more intentional choices. So while tobacco companies no longer own major food companies today, that period is still important because it's helped shape the way foods are designed, marketed, and consumed. Here's the next question. If companies influence what's produced, who is responsible for guiding us as to what we're told to eat? Because alongside industry, there's also government agencies working to shape nutrition recommendations and food policy. These agencies are responsible for creating the guidelines we see, like the food pyramid, My Plate, and for regulating what actually ends up in our food supply. So to really understand our current food environment, we need to look at both sides, industry influence and the agencies that help guide public health recommendations. Key agencies like HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services, focuses on public health and disease prevention. They co-author the Dietary Guidelines for America. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, supports agriculture and food production, co-creates the Dietary Guidelines for America, and develops the consumer tools that we'll take a look at in a moment, like the food pyramid and My Plate. They balance the nutrition guidance with agricultural policy. Then there's the FDA. The Food and Drug Administration oversees food safety and regulation. They're responsible for things like nutrition labels, food ingredients and additives, health claims on packaging, and they help determine what is allowed into the food supply. Then there's the National Institutes of Health. They conduct food research, nutrition research, and health research, and they provide evidence on chronic disease patterns, diet patterns, ultra-processed food, and they influence future guidelines. The key point here, nutrition guidelines are shaped by science, but also influenced by policy, industry, and health priorities. So all these agencies play a role. The Dietary Guidelines for America are updated every 5 years and reflect a combination of scientific research and policy decisions. In 1977, the dietary goals for the United States were set for the first time. It was our first modern nutrition goals issued by U.S. Senate McGovern. McGovern, you guys know this guy? Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Surgeon General, I think he was, yes? Senator, I'm sorry. There's another guy here that was the, okay. They recommended reduce fat, especially saturated fat, reduce sugar and salt, and to increase carbohydrates, as in grains and cereals. This is where the low-fat, high-carb movement began. Over time, these recommendations evolved into the food pyramid in 1992. This is where grains really became the foundation of the American diet, with the recommendation, if you look at the bottom, 6 to 11 servings of grain a day. Just think about that for a minute.
Lots of pasta.
I mean, I feel like if I ate 6 to 11 servings of grain a day, I wouldn't be able to eat anything else. But just something to get your mind working. During that same period, we began to see obesity rates rise. From about 14% in the 1970s to over 23% in the early 1990s, and continuing upward from there. Now, nutrition is complex. No single factor explains all this, but when we look at the timeline, it raises an important question. Did our guidance keep up with how rapidly our food environment is changing? Something has changed, and we're still trying to understand exactly what that is. That brings us to my plate. Where is my plate? So my plate was designed in 2011 to 2024. It was to give more of a visual and not to focus on serving sizes. As you can see here, we've got protein, grains, fruits, and vegetables, and then dairy was added as a side. Ooh, I got a fly. Okay, I lost my paper here. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So instead of counting servings like the old pyramid, it shows you what your plate should look like at each meal. It encourages more fruits, vegetables, portion control, and a variety across food groups. And while my plate is a good starting point, it doesn't fully address food quality or processing. It doesn't distinguish between whole foods and processed foods, healthy fats versus less healthy fats. So two plates could look very similar, but have very different impacts on health depending on the quality of food. So let's pan out and look at the bigger picture over time. What happened during that time? As these recommendations were being followed, what has happened to our health? When we look at the data, we start to see a trend emerge. Obesity rates began to rise during the same period that these guidelines were in place. Now, that doesn't mean one single factor is to blame. Again, nutrition is complex. But it does tell us that something in the system or the environment isn't working as intended. Let's take a closer look. In the early 1970s, about 14.5% of US adults were obese and 5.2% of children. Jump to the 1990s, it's 23% of adults and 15% of children. That's approximate. You see my little squiggly line? Today, this is data from 2021 to 2023, 40.3% of adult Americans are obese and 21.1% of children. Obesity rates for adults have more than tripled since the 1970s. Childhood obesity has also significantly increased since the 1970s. As our food environment has become more processed, obesity rates have more than doubled, and that's from your Center for Disease Control, the CDC. Last year, the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, the NHLBI, that's a long acronym, published one of the largest, most comprehensive studies to date linking ultra-processed foods to cardiovascular disease, the leading cause of death in the US and worldwide. That observational study included a prospective US cohort of over 200,000 participants and a meta-analysis of health data from over 12 million people. It showed that high consumption of ultra-processed food was linked to an increased risk of heart disease and stroke in US adults. In particular, it found that study participants with the highest intake of ultra-processed foods showed a 17% greater disease risk of cardiovascular disease, 23% greater of coronary artery disease, and 9% greater risk of stroke. to those with the lowest intake of ultra-processed foods. In a quote, Joanne Mason, who is a co-author of this study, said, our study provides strong evidence that ultra-processed foods are linked to cardiovascular disease. They also found that ultra-processed foods are not all equal. Some are worse for you than others. You want to guess? The highest risk for heart disease included sugary, sweetened beverages, highly processed meats such as hot dogs, deli meat. Ultra-processed foods with the lowest risk are going to be your breakfast cereals. Not no risk, but lower risk. Breakfast cereals, sweetened yogurt, and some whole grain products. Bear in mind that these examples of the additives in these commonly used in ultra-processed foods are going to be your high fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated oils, sodium nitrate, and artificial dyes. This significant dietary shift, coupled with increasingly sedentary lifestyle, has been directly implicated in the escalating prevalence of non-communicable chronic diseases. The widespread availability and consumption, particularly since the 1970s, coincides with the rise in chronic disease, including inflammatory bowel disease. That was a particular note in this study. So when we step back and look at these numbers in both adults and children, it's clear that something has changed. Despite decades of guidelines, increased awareness, and more information than ever before, we're not moving in the right direction. So it raises an important question. Are we focusing on the right things when it comes to nutrition? Because if obesity rates have more than doubled since the time of the original food pyramid, it suggests that something in our approach or the environment isn't working. Now that doesn't mean that everything that we've been taught is wrong, but it does mean we need to take a closer look at what has changed and what we understand differently today. And that's where the modern food pyramid comes in. Instead of focusing on calories or macronutrients, that's your carbs, fat, protein, the emphasis has shifted towards food quality, especially whole, minimally processed foods. So let's take a look at what the modern food pyramid looks like and how it reflects what we know now about supporting healthy aging. The modern pyramid flips the old pyramid in a lot of ways. As you can see, it's inverted. But now instead of building your diet largely on refined grains, it emphasizes food quality first. Proteins and healthy fats are no longer something to avoid. They're actually essential for things like maintaining muscle, supporting brain health, stabilizing blood sugar. At the very bottom, which was the top, you have added sugars, refined carbohydrates, things that we want to limit. And there's actually a focus on limiting added sugars, which that did not exist before. There, I break it down. Eat most often. Building a healthy diet. So we've got vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, and legumes. Eat regularly. Fish, eggs, poultry, Greek yogurt, lean meats. These are all good protein sources, and we'll have another slide on that in a minute. And things to limit. Ultra-processed foods, sugary drinks, highly refined snacks. More and more research is making it clear how processed a food matters just as much as the nutrients that it contains. So when we take a look at the modern food pyramid, the focus is clear. Eat real food. And it's not just about general health, it's about increasing your health span, the number of years you live without chronic disease or slowing the diseases that you may have, and quality of life. Because the truth is, our bodies don't respond to food the same way as they did 20 to 30 years ago. As we get older, our nutrient needs actually become more specific, not less. So this way of eating, the modern food pyramid, isn't just a trend, it's a strategy to support healthy aging and longevity. As we age, several natural physiological changes begin to occur in the body, and we've talked about this before, Muscle mass gradually declines. Metabolism slows. Nutrient absorption can become less efficient, and our immune system becomes less robust. Researchers often refer to these age-related changes as part of a biological aging process. Because of these changes, the quality of foods we eat become even more important than the quantity. Nutrient-dense foods help support muscle maintenance, brain health, immune function, and overall vitality. For example, we know that adequate protein intake helps to slow sarcopenia. That's your age-related muscle loss. Things like fruits and vegetables help reduce inflammation and lower the risk for chronic diseases. In other words, while nutrition is important at every stage in life, it becomes especially powerful in supporting health and independence and quality of life as we age. So we talked about nutrition and why it becomes more important as we age, how it impacts strength, energy, and overall independence. So the next question is, what does that actually look like on a plate? I have two lines here. One is your animal-based protein suggestions. One is plant-based protein suggestions. It is one thing to say eat healthy, and it's another to understand what foods truly support your body as you age. So we have fish. Here comes the salmon, sardines, tuna, chicken, turkey, eggs, great source of protein, lean cuts of beef and pork, Greek yogurt. Plant-based options, beans like black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, tofu and tempeh, that's, I believe, fermented soy, yes. Nuts and seeds. High-quality protein sources like these help provide essential amino acids the body needs for muscle repair, immune function, and overall health. Spreading protein intake out throughout the day rather than eating it all at one setting can also improve how the body utilizes it. So instead of avoiding protein, the goal is to include it as a regular part of a balanced, whole food-based diet. What are healthy fats? Healthy fats are primarily unsaturated fats, including monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats. They support key functions in the body. Unlike trans fats and excessive saturated fats, these fats, the good fats, are associated with improved heart and metabolic health. The brain is about 60% fat and relies on fatty acids, especially omega-3s, for structure and communication. Inflammation control. Those same omega-3 acids help reduce chronic inflammation, which is linked to many chronic diseases. Cell structure. Fats are a key component of cell membranes, helping cells function properly. Nutrient absorption. If you've joined me in a previous presentation, we talked about fat-soluble vitamins, particularly D and K, but there are two others, A, D, E, and K. If you don't have enough fat in your diet, you're not able to absorb fat-soluble vitamins. D and K, just to remind you, vitamin D helps the body absorb calcium, and vitamin K tells where that calcium were to go into the bones. So you may not think of eating fat as helping your bones be healthy, but it does. Healthy, ancient, and whole grains. Healthy choices like quinoa. You guys know quinoa? Yeah. Farro, anybody know that one? Barley, brown rice, millet. A lot of these you don't see real often. They're ancient grains. They've kind of been replaced with white processed things. Yeah. Why they matter? Because these guys are high in fiber. They support digestion. They provide steady energy. They support heart health, and they keep you feeling full longer. So unlike their cohorts over there, the processed foods, you don't get a feeling of satiety. You don't feel full. You just keep eating them because they're nutrient deficient. Things you want to limit. I don't think I made a slide for this one. No. White bread, white rice, refined pastas, highly processed grain products. Choose whole grains over refined grains whenever possible. Not all carbohydrates are created equal. Whole and ancient grains contain fiber and nutrients that are often stripped away in the refining process. Vegetables are technically a type of carbohydrate, but they're very different from refined carbohydrates like white bread or sugar. Vegetables are high in fiber, which slows digestion and helps stabilize blood sugar, and they're packed with micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. These micronutrients play critical roles in the body. So while they do contain carbohydrates, vegetables are what we call nutrient-dense carbohydrates, meaning they provide a lot of nutrition without excess calories. So yes, vegetables are carbs, but they're the kind that your body actually needs. I did make a slide. Refined carbohydrates, in case there's a question, you guys will recognize these. To white bread, white rice, pasta, looks like some oats there maybe. Small swaps and a big impact. So one of the easiest ways to improve your nutrition isn't by changing everything overnight. It's by making small swaps. For example, instead of eating a traditional burger with a bun, you might choose a bunless burger on a bed of lettuce with a side salad instead of French fries. Which one's the healthier choice here? Anybody? Would anybody choose that one? Yes? This gets really important because if we make things available and nobody chooses it, then what did we do?
Changed it.
Yeah? A couple other simple things. Instead of sugary cereals, I've heard people say, what do I eat for breakfast? How about some eggs? Eggs and fruit. You can never go wrong with eggs and fruit. Scrambled, fried, made into an omelet with tons of veggies. Instead of flavored, hard-boiled. See, we got options. Instead of flavored yogurts, plain Greek yogurt, put the berries on top. Because that flavored yogurt, those berries are pureed into who knows what. They don't have their nutritional food matrix that they would have if they were whole. And you just don't have the same product. It's like the apple to the apple bar. Instead of chips, nuts, or seeds, or a side salad, instead of soda, sparkling water. And we talked a little bit about industrial seed oils, which I think that's going to be my next presentation. But extra virgin olive oil instead of your seed oils. So canola oil, rapeseed oil, these refined oils that you see in the plastic bottle all over the grocery shelves. Yeah. In a minute.
What about oatmeal?
In a minute. Save it to the end. I do have something to say about oatmeal, but save it to the end. I'll get lost up in my own mind. While these are small changes, they can significantly reduce processed ingredients and increase nutrient intake. The important part is how you choose matters. You don't have to make a perfect choice every time, but make a better choice more often than not, right? It's those small things that add up over time. And I had for instance, this is not me, this is nobody that I know, but they drink 1 glass of wine a night.
Yeah.
7 ounces.
Okay.
So when that bottle's empty after 2 days, it's about 2 days, 2.5 days, instead of throwing it in the trash, they set it on the countertop. And the next day goes by, and the next day goes by, there's another bottle on the countertop, and the next day goes by, and the next day goes by, and at the end of the month, there's 8 or 9 empty wine bottles on the countertop. Well, you may not think about that glass of wine every night as a big deal, or 2 glasses. If you start setting the container that it came out of on the counter and look at how that adds up over time, you'll see that those small choices, whether they're good or whether they're bad, make a big difference. If given the choice, how many of you would choose this lettuce burger? Raise your hand. Get the camera out. All right. So we have something really exciting. I have been collaborating with Dining Services, Arlena, and Occam, and we want to bring a longevity plate to the menu. It's going to be based on the concepts that we talked about in the modern food pyramid, the whole healthy ancient grains, vegetation, lean protein, all those components into what we're going to call a longevity plate. You get the opportunity to participate because we're going to take a vote. We have 3 options for you guys. If you notice, there's plates of food here on the counter. I have photographs of those as well. We can go over them. So longevity plate option number 1 When we finish, I have voting cards here. I'll place them by the golden box. You check the option you like and stick it in the box. Or you can just lay it on the counter if it's crowded over there, but we'll get to it. We have a spinach and arugula base. It's got quinoa, berries, walnuts. If you see, I think they're slivered walnuts. Grilled salmon or chicken dressed in olive oil and red wine vinegar. Longevity plate option number 2 is a lemon garlic chicken with quinoa and broccoli. Your protein base is a baked chicken breast. Your grain is a quinoa. The vegetable is steamed broccoli finished with olive oil and lemon zest. Option number 3 is a Mediterranean bowl, chicken and lentil rice bowl. Your base is brown rice and lentils, protein packed. Your actual protein is the lemon oregano baked chicken thighs. It's got a charaza salad dressing. I got cucumbers, tomatoes, red onions. I'm not the chef, so don't hold it against me. And a tzatziki sauce made from Greek yogurt. It'll have some olives on there as well. So that's all I have for you guys today. The good news is you don't have to overhaul everything overnight. Even 1 or 2 small changes can make a meaningful difference. Before you go away, I take that back. If you open the packet that I gave you, about halfway back, there's a participant workbook. You don't have to do this in here. This is really just for you to take home and do some self-reflection. I found that if I write things down, I become more accountable to them. But what does a typical day of eating look like for you? Maybe you eat and you don't give it much thought, so we could be more mindful, right? Just one day. You don't have to do it every day. Jot down what you actually ate that day and take a look at it and see if it reflects health and longevity or does it reflect something else. That was kind, wasn't it? Building a healthy plate. My plate goals. And it goes on, but hopefully these are some tools that you can put into your hands that you can start using to make those small changes that are going to have a bigger impact on your health. Eat more food that comes from the ground and fewer things that come from a factory. I'll open the floor up for questions. I'll set the voting sheets over there once we get through questions and answers. I hope that you have some. I need my runner, Karen, my microphone runner. I think we have one question right up front. We'll get that one right there. Yeah, right behind her.
I was asking about 2-minute oatmeal for breakfast. If I cook it for 2 minutes and put an egg on top of it, isn't that a good breakfast?
Well, you added the egg, so you're starting to get somewhere.
What about the 2-minute oatmeal?
The 2-minute oatmeal is just a bag of carbohydrates. If you eat, and this is for everybody in here, Arlen can tell me if I'm wrong. If you just eat oats for breakfast, you have fasted all night, assuming you didn't get up and raid the refrigerator in the middle of the night. Your blood sugar is low and stable. If you put in grains, the first thing that's going to happen is your blood sugar is going to rise because there's nothing there to slow it down. So you've just set yourself up for a full day of fat storage. When insulin is high, the fat cell can't do anything but accumulate more fat. So what's inside of it can't come out for energy because insulin is high. Now, if you put the egg on top of it, you've changed the components of that meal. Although 1 egg is only 7 grams of protein, so that is not a high protein breakfast. Put 2 eggs on there, we're getting somewhere. But I would caution you against the packaged 2-minute oatmeal, and I would suggest something like a whole split grain oat that's not chopped up into small tiny little pieces and probably has other ingredients if you look at the ingredients on it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I hate to admit this, but I don't know what refined pasta is.
Okay, I'll do my best to explain it. Grain doesn't grow white like pasta is, it grows brown. So brown pasta, whole grain pasta is less refined. Refined is gonna have all of that stripped from it, the husk, I believe it is. And then you get a refined product that's less in fiber and that's your white refined pasta. They also, well, we won't go there. I won't digress to that. I'll hold that one.
Carrie, what is the role of milk? Because I've been sitting here and I don't think I've ever heard you mention anything about milk. And also, what's Greek yogurt as opposed to regular yogurt, which is what we get?
I'll try to do that from the top first. Milk is a protein source. It does have a sugar in it, but they're in their food matrix. Whole milk is always better. Again, unless you have medical conditions, this is just my take on it. What we do at my house, we drink whole milk, and actually we get it from a dairy. So we drink raw whole milk, which, not suggesting that, just telling you what I do. It's a great protein source. The problem is, when they started demonizing fat back in the 80s, the only dairy you see in schools and anywhere is 2% or low-fat milk. Well, when you take something out of something, you have to put something else in. So it's got fillers and different things in it, and you've reduced it from what it was to something else. So yes, milk can be part of a healthy diet for sure. I like whole milk products better.
So we don't have, we're not, those aren't available to us, readily available.
Yeah, and that's, we can come back around to that, but the food recommendations too are changing, so you have to understand how policy trickles down to the products that are gonna be available to you. And that'd be here and anywhere, schools. I was listening to a thing this morning, RFK, about hospital foods. There's a big overhaul coming for hospital food, and I think that's a great thing. And schools as well. I have a son in school. What they feed them is atrocious. So I think you'll see with the policy shift, you'll start to see those things come into the marketplace. Yes. Greek yogurt tends to be higher in protein than regular yogurt, and what we really don't want is flavored yogurts, right? If you look at the ingredients, you'll see why. 17 added grams of sugar, so forth and so on. Greek yogurt does have some sugar in it because, again, milk has natural occurring sugars, but it's the whole food matrix and not the processed fruit-like substance added in with yogurt.
Carrie, can you explain what, yeah, hello, you thought, where was it coming from? Can you explain what the fruit does, if you eat fruit and Greek yogurt in the morning, what the sugar does, what the sugar in fruit does? Does it spike as well, or
So
not?
the difference is, if you eat a whole blueberry, it's got the fiber and all those things in it, right? And you're eating it with a protein source, so that the protein slows the absorption of the sugar into the bloodstream. So no, it's not the same. It's completely different. Yeah. And then, fruits are there's a glycemic index. Fruits are different. My recommendation would be stick with your berries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. They're highest in fiber, they're dark in color.
What is
Other-
your, oh, I'm
Sorry, go ahead.
What is your take on organic versus non-organic? I mean, we could be eating things out of the ground and they could have all sorts of pesticides on them, so tell me about that.
Well, it is a whole nother presentation, and I think I have touched on this in the past, and I'll tell you again what we do at my house. We buy organic. If it's a fruit that I'm gonna eat the skin of it, I buy organic. I even then still take that fruit and wash it in baking soda. So if you're not buying organic and you're bringing it into your house, wash it in baking soda. That's probably your best defense to make sure it strips away the pesticides that could be residually on there. Busy girl.
Exercise.
Hearing a lot about avocado oil. Can you give us where you stand on what end of the oil spectrum avocado oil is?
Well, avocado comes from the pulp. It doesn't come from the seed, so it's not processed like the seed oils, the ones I say, the industrial processed seed oils. It's on the good side. So you got your avocado oil, your olive oil. Those are going to be at room temperature. Then you have coconut oil, beef tallow, butter, and ghee. Those are going to be your good healthy fats. And then, like I said, go down the grocery store shelf. All the ones in the plastic bottles there. Yeah.
So we're gonna vote on 1, 2, or 3. Why can't we vote on all 3 and rotate?
Let's start with baby steps. You wanna do?
No, because we will change.
Okay, so the one, this is, we gotta focus on baby steps. And I didn't mention this too, at the end of the salad bar, there will be a bottle of extra virgin olive oil right next to a bottle of red wine vinegar. That is a salad dressing you can make that doesn't have seed oils in it. And if I'm not mistaken, the ranch does not, it's made with buttermilk.
Buttermilk.
So the ranch dressing here, unlike if you go to the store, you buy a bottle of ranch dressing, half of that bottle is seed oil. It is not made with buttermilk. So the ranch dressing here, no seed oils. Olive oil and red wine vinegar, always a good choice, spices up just about anything. Some of the other dressings are made with your seed oils. I don't even remember the question, it was going somewhere with that.
1, 2, or 3.
Where are the-
Oh, avocado oil, yes. So the ones that are room temperature, your avocado oil and your olive oil are good for putting on things or sauteing at low heat. The ones that are solid at room temperature, your coconut oil, your ghee, your beef tallow, and butter are better for high temperatures.
And so where is this gonna be available? In the salad bar or as an entree? In the dining
This is
room?
gonna be an entree on the menu. Now I remember where I'm going now. This is gonna be an entree on the menu. The extra virgin olive oil and the red wine vinegar are gonna be at the end of the salad bar. That's a starting point. If we see people driving towards those things, they want those things, we can talk about incorporating those types of oils into the other dressings. So this is where your vote counts, right? This is where the things that you choose. They got a bunless burger on the bistro menu. Who's picking it? So you have to drive home these changes and continue this trajectory, and we'll continue to bring things to you in that fashion. Does that make sense? We all got a role to play. Okay, and this is the groundwork. This is the starting ground. So 1, 2, or 3, a longevity plate on the menu for April. And then we'll look at incorporating options as the months go by, because these menus are made well in advance. We have to have time to prep and to get those things brought to you. But it is the objective of Dining Services, of myself, of our registered dietitian, Arlena, to bring the things we're teaching you guys to applicable choices that you can make in your everyday life. There are some changes coming to the bistro
The bistro menu will change 100% by tomorrow.
by tomorrow.
And so there will be a lot more healthier choice on there. A
Very
lot.
good.
There
So the
is-
bistro will be
there's a
changing
smaller
tomorrow.
section- There's a smaller section that still has the favorites.
We'll still have the favorites, don't worry.
The
'Cause-
items that we're not talking about here today. So
Right.
Some of those will still be there,
Yeah.
okay?
So
Like
we're not
hot
taking
dogs.
it, I don't remember who I gave that experiment to. I posted it on Facebook. I think Rodney read it. There was a gentleman, I think it was in the 1900s. He was a research scientist, and he took all these people, they didn't really understand diabetes back then. We're even getting a better understanding of it now, but he took all these people that had type 2 diabetes, and he sequestered them. You could never do this today, it's ethically just completely wrong. He sequestered them away, locked them up, and only fed them whole foods. They had no sugar. You want to know what happened? Rodney, tell them what happened. They got healthy. All indication of disease went away 100%. So while we can't lock you in a room, we can provide you with other choices. The power's in your hands is really what I'm saying to you. So, yes.
Can we get Greek yogurt in the Liberty Market?
Can we get Greek yogurt in the Liberty Market?
I will try to get Greek yogurt in the Liberty Market. It's been kind of difficult because majority of the time we had it in the past, it was only the flavored one. And
Can we look into getting an unflavored
I will
version?
try to get
Yes.
unflavored one.
We will put that to the test. I'm sorry, what's that? You mean like whole milk? Whole milk?
I will try.
Okay.
Generally, the request has always been
The other way.
there. So whatever is the request is
Sure.
what we've been putting out.
I will put together a list based on your recommendations, and we will forward that over to Occam at a later time and see what we can do about getting some different options in the Liberty Market. I got someone right over here. Who has the microphone? Right here.
As a child, I grew up in a home where I thought vegetables grew in cans. If I know you buy fresh vegetables, and a lot of times because we have other places to eat, they'll go bad.
Sure.
Would you recommend either, I know canned is probably more processed,
Yes.
is that correct?
Frozen
What
is
about
probably,
frozen?
frozen's gonna be your next best choice.
Okay,
Yeah.
will you buy me a freezer or something?
Will I buy you a freezer? You know, there's someone else here was wanting a freezer to buy some grass-fed meat. Maybe you guys should get together and get a locker or whatever. They used to rent lockers, people, freezers.
And one other thing, if I may, it's really, and I think we'd all agree, we're of course older than you are, but it has changed so much. The pyramids have all changed. It's so hard to keep up what's good for you, what's not. I'm half Italian,
Yeah.
so I love my pasta.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you're telling me it's not, I could eat it every day if
I
were
want to make
allowed.
a clarification there, because we do eat pasta in my house, but I buy pasta that is imported from Italy. Because it is completely different.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
100%.
I'll have to check.
Well, first and foremost, it's not sprayed with glyphosate. It's sprayed with glyphosate. It's not enriched with folic acid. It is completely different. Now, it's still a carbohydrate, so you wouldn't want to eat a whole bunch of it right before you go to bed because it's an energy source. If you think about eating whole foods, how close is this to the ground it came out of? And what am I doing in the next 3 to 4 hours? Because when you eat, you're fueling the next 3 to 4 hours. And base your food choices on that, it can go a long way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where do you get it? Where do you get it?
They actually have a brand at Costco that comes straight from Italy. It's in a box, and it doesn't look like the pasta you see with the sprinkles and the swirls and the butterflies. It looks like somebody hand-rolled these little pasta things. It's completely different. Yeah. It's more expensive, but if you got a hot rod, are you gonna pull up to the gas station and put 87 octane in that hot rod? Or are you gonna get the high octane expensive fuel? You're the hot rod. Your fuel is the food you put in your body. Garbage in, garbage out. Someone had a question. I don't know where the microphone went. Yeah.
Would you comment on sugar? There's brown sugar, there's sugar in the raw, there's refined sugar, there's multiple sugar substitutes. So if we're not supposed to have sugar,
Uh-huh.
how do we get it?
We're not supposed to have it. How do you get it? I feel like I'm being set up. Fruit is nature's dessert. If you're adding anything, albeit raw sugar, brown sugar, white sugar, sucralose, no, don't add anything. And if you want something sweet, eat some fruit.
Honey.
Honey's good. Honey has a lot of nutrients in it. Local honey can even help protect against allergies and different things. Honey is in a food matrix. I wouldn't sit down and eat a jar of honey, but I actually take bee pollen. I eat bee pollen because it's loaded with vitamins and nutrients. It doesn't taste like honey, but I do use honey in my coffee sometimes, on the weekend. But yes, if you have to sweeten your coffee, a little spoon with a little honey on it is a much better choice than anything that comes in a little package that's white or brown or any other color.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for your presentation. Very, very good, very reliable information, and I learned a lot.
Awesome.
But I do want to say this with the team in the back there. We can ask for all these healthy things in the Liberty Market and in the menus, and unless we order that, unless we eat that, we're not making life changes. And I'm guilty, as some of us are in here and will admit it, that, I have to have my pizza. I have to have certain foods that are comfort foods that I've gotten accustomed to over my lifespan. but limiting some of those is the key. But I go to the resident lounge on Fridays for the happy hour, have a glass of wine, maybe have a little snack, a little popcorn, but I can count 15 pizzas go out of that that go out of that bistro every Friday. That's okay if that's your weekly treat, but for some people, that's the daily environment. And that's what's hurting us as senior citizens here. Making healthy choices, making some decisions, and changing your lifestyle is really the key.
Yes.
Thank you, Carrie.
And you're very welcome, and thank you for your nice compliment. I think I touched on that, right? Just like when you're at the grocery store, every dollar you spend, you vote, you're voting with your dollar at the grocery store. What kind of products do you want to see on those shelves? It's the same way in this environment. Every time you go and you order something, Akeem can make a printout of person in seat number 12A, everything that you've chosen to eat for the month. So your choices matter, right? We as a community drive towards the healthy choices more often than not. And yes, of course, the other things exist. Absolutely, I do those things myself. But it's not the norm, it's the exception. The 80-20 rule. 80% of the time I'm eating healthy, I'm focused. 20% of the time I deviate a little bit. Yes?
I don't want to shame anybody because that's not what I do.
Use
So
the
So
microphone.
I don't want to shame anybody because that's
Give her the
not-
microphone, Karen.
Okay. I don't want to shame anybody. That's not what I do, so I'm not going to print out the printout.
No, I just meant for instance.
So,
I know
but
you wouldn't do that.
I would never do that, but I'm going to just say one thing, and this is a sign of making maybe not the right choices. I cannot keep soda at the Liberty Market.
And one of
So-
the most damaging ultra-processed
Processed
foods
food
is
is
sugary
soda.
beverages.
So I spend $2,000 a week on buying soda to put in the Liberty Market so that you all can have soda. I'm telling you, it is the craziest thing ever. So just think about, reflect, next time when you grab a bottle of soda, do I need to grab another bottle of soda? That's all.
1 second. Karen, can you bring the microphone back around? Jack, you had a question back there, yes? Is he still there?
This man here had a question.
Okay. Go over there real quick and then come back to this. We got about another 4 or 5 minutes here. Sit tight.
Me, just really quickly, if you're going to make a smoothie, fresh fruit smoothie, would you choose whole milk or skim milk or 2%, or what would be your choice?
At my house, we do whole raw milk.
Because we don't have
Whole milk.
access to that.
Whole milk. Yeah. You can even put some Greek yogurt in that, thicken it up a little bit. Anyone else? Right back over here, Karen. Let's make her run from side to side. It'll be fun. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
I know we talked about sugary drinks, so you've answered the question about diet Cokes or diet Pepsi. But what about Pellegrino?
Okay.
Is that good for you? I mean, isn't that better, but you get the effervescence?
Are we talking about just sparkling water?
Yes.
Yeah, because Pellegrino, I like it. That's one of our choices at home when it comes in glass. Waterloo, there's a bunch of other ones, but if you start looking at the flavored ones, I mean, we can split hairs here all day long. It's like natural flavors. Where does that come from? Well, they don't have to tell you. We don't know. We don't know what that is. But if that's a choice of that versus a soda, it's that every time. Hands down. Yes. Pellegrino, though, does have some sweetened drinks, if I'm not mistaken, but just the sparkling water, my son was 4 years old. We were at a restaurant. He calls it spicy water. So he took a drink of it for the first time and he went, but from then on he called carbonated water, so they would come to order and he goes, I want spicy water. Just a fun little note.
Could you address the nutritional value of sweet potatoes?
Sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are loaded with nutrients. You notice the dark color and the dark skin. Eating the skin is actually a good thing to do, but they are not the same. It's actually in the yam family as a potato. An Idaho potato is very high glycemically. If you ate that potato with nothing else in your system, your blood sugar would go through the ceiling. Sweet potatoes don't have that same impact. Okay. Now, if you put brown sugar on your sweet potato and marshmallows and all that, we've adulterated it deeply.